There was a time when I would cry about 5 times a week in my bed. My soul was rotten and I was experiencing such desperate emptiness and loneliness that no one could understand. And I can assure you that my life sucked. And with such feelings of emptiness, I knew that I wouldn't last like more than 2 or 3 years if I was going to now try to survive this world by trying to distract myself from this deep death within me. And I went from that place to another where I was now overwhelmed by the love of God. And there clicked an understanding, a revelation, and I believed in my heart that Jesus was there standing next to my mother when I was being born, welcoming me into this world. Jesus was in every moment of my life. And from the moment that I knew that I belonged to God, who knew me more than I could ever know of myself, everything in life had purpose and meaning. Life was worth living. This is real. This is the legit love of God that we as Christians also know so well and talk about. So let me tell you about God's work of delivering us from our spiritual loneliness. I knew that the loneliness which I was depressed with was a deep spiritual one because I actually had all my friends and family who were sincerely caring and praying for me. But I was dealing with this inner turmoil and this confusion and this complexity that I couldn't identify and I couldn't understand what was the matter with me. But all that I knew, in despite of all of that, was that I didn't have God. And I tried to communicate what I was feeling with the others because I didn't want to be this proud, self-victimizing person by refusing help, But at the same time, I couldn't. I had no energy, first of all, and I felt that no one could resonate with me, and I would just hear myself talk, and nothing was actually making sense, and then I would get suddenly tired, and I would just eventually tell them, you know what, never mind, I'm sorry, I can't do this. There was no point. There was no point in anything, as a matter of fact. I lost all taste of joy in anything in life. No good food, no exciting activities, no laughable comedies mattered. In this world with apparently so many struggling with sense of loneliness and depression in life, I want to suggest that what we're struggling with is a spiritual loneliness and emptiness that which isn't really understood or identified or really felt. When we don't understand our spiritual state and what the spirit needs, we naturally find all other methods to try either distract us from it or to deal with it. And this is not to disregard every issues in life to call it as a spiritual deal, but the reason why we as Christians emphasize a spiritual issue as the reason for all of our fallen nature is because that is true. Perhaps some of us are afraid to say the cliche that Jesus is the answer because honestly, I think we've rather been helped more with the secular means or methodologies, and maybe we're not confident enough to simply say, come to Jesus and you actually find your healing. But didn't Jesus say that, come to me and I will give you the water that you may not thirst? So what does it mean that we as Christians are still looking to secular wisdom or humanistic methodologies in order to deliver us, other than it meaning that we are still thirsty? And I am not saying this to try reject psychological or therapeutic understanding altogether at all. I mean, as a matter of fact, I find them very intriguing, and I find there are great truth that can be related to the gospel and understanding of ourselves. But that's the whole point though, right? I mean, if we are Christians that believe God as a creator and father of all things, and at the same time our healer, then we know that we have nothing else except the gospel. As Paul himself had said that I devoted not to know anything among you except Christ and Him crucified. And my conviction is that we are wrestling and we are struggling and we are asking the world for their wisdom because of this incorrect application of this half gospel and truncated gospel or sugar-coated gospel in our lives. But when our identity is chiseled all the way from death, burial to the resurrection of Jesus Christ, we don't need anything else in our spirit, and as a matter of fact, Jesus is the answer. And I'm not saying that you don't need healthy communities or relationship or meaningful activities in life. But when you truly know God and you are known by God, everything else in this world, all the problems, it becomes a secondary issue. One of the respected Bible teacher, David Pawson, he would share that, when people would come to him for counseling, that he would no longer focus on their problems that they share with him, but he would ask them, how did they become a Christian? And then he would listen carefully, and they would identify the spiritual lack that there has been in their process of spiritual rebirth. And when they go backtrack and identify and fix them and put things in place, and the person would suddenly say that, I actually feel okay or better about this now, or they say that I can handle this from now. So perhaps you should be asking yourself this question. God is using our sense of emptiness to call us deeper to Himself, and we should keep our ears open. Look, some of you possibly might not even have the motivation to do anything right now, but you must pull yourself a little bit more to see this as an opportunity. Cling to God while you are desperate. What more do you have to lose? Do you think that you will survive living on this state of mentality for the next 5 years? And do you know where you're going? Do you see where you're going in life? What is then the point to try live on this world with this temporary distractions and injecting ourselves with anesthesias in this grayscale world? I know that you're in a place where I know you can hear me when I say that there is no other hope but in Christ. Call out unto Him with both submission and demand to know God, for Him to reveal Himself to you and to show you that His love is real. And He does love you truly. And you are dying because you can't see it, but when you do, your life will change entirely. All your traumas and the loss in life, He understands, and He was with you and is now with you, understanding your pain. And to everyone else feeling better or somewhat okay in this time now, I want to ask you, do you know about this spiritual loneliness? There's a saying that he who has the why can bear any how. And my why is Christ, and He is everything that I have. But I want to ask, what about yours? What is yours though? Is it temporal or is it eternal? Is your joy stemming forth from whom is eternal and the source of life itself? Or is your joy rooted in the shadows of the true joy, which are but conditional things? Conditional things do not last, and they are nothing but distractions until you really reach the point to realize that deeply within, what you're really missing is the peace with God. I've lived as a Christian for 18 years until I realized that I had no peace with God. And that shock and desperation threw me into the place where I wanted to love God so desperately, but I felt hopeless like never before. I wanted to please God. I wanted to honor God. I wanted to glorify God. But the more and more I tried to do it day after day, the more I saw that I was a champion at being the worst at it. So in desperation, I threw out my everything to God and I said, God, what do you want? You can have my dreams, you can have my plan for future, my friends and more marriage or security or whatever that it is that you can take from me. If in return I can have a little bit of you, God, please do it. God brought me to the place of that confession to let me make Him my everything. And while on the mission training, God spoke to me and said that there is somebody that you are not forgiving in your life, and that is hindering my love for you. And that somebody was myself. Being able to forgive all I am as Christ has forgiven me through the cross unlocked the entire answer for my confusion and my loneliness, and I've never been so alive. He was so real. I would jog out in the morning, watch the sunrise, and say, "Good morning, God." This companionship and this fellowship was my joy. Seeing how God was speaking to me all the time and seeing how He was teaching me about Himself through all the experience and seasons, the relationship that I have with God can't be traded for anything else in my life. And yes, I may be lonely at times for the lack of company here and there, or to be saddened by certain troubles of life. But the spirit within me that vitalizes my meaning renders all the experiences meaningful and purposeful. And because I am held by purpose Himself, things become no biggie with God, who truly works everything for the best possible good and our sanctification. So, as someone that has had such an experience, I can offer you nothing but Christ and the cross. And I dare not advise you anything apart from this that may distract you from the place that God is calling you to be. The cure to the root of loneliness is communion with the one who knows you more than anybody else in this world, including yourself. He is your Father who seeks to be your best friend. This video has been just a brief touch on this subject, and there is much more to be talked about, of course, and I wish I could help you more on a personal level. Because you see, just saying that Jesus is the answer and the gospel is the answer, and that is just one part of it, it's a very easy part as a matter of fact. But the application of the gospel, that is what I am talking about and trying to bring and address to you here right now. And when we are able to identify and when we are able to say Galatians 2:20 that I've been crucified with Christ, that I no longer live but Christ lives in me, if that can be your confession, when the cross is beautiful, everything in life will be beautiful. But I hope and pray that this has given you some thoughts and perspective on what you might need. There is a light beyond the horizon, and it is always the darkest hour just before the dawn. Do not let the world distract you, but let it drive you in determination to say that I must find God. Because God said, I will be found by those who seek me with all their heart. I don't have answers to everything, but you're more than welcome to contact me if you would like to share your resonance with this video. God bless you guys, and Jesus loves you.